All right, let's talk about 4 ways to boost your metabolism. Now, before we get into it, let's talk about the things that don't do the job. These are the things that dominate media, that confuse the hell out of people, that leave people really freaking frustrated because they dump a ton of money into it and it makes no difference whatsoever. So, first, we got fat burners. We're going to dive a little bit into that on the specifics. Second is the specific exercise equipment. Does exercise help? Absolutely. But those things that you see on QVC or those late night commercials where it says, oh, it's going to burn 10,000 times the amount of fat in your glutes, it's just a straight up lie. There's nothing to even like say about those there other than it's just a ton of fabrication and a bunch of exaggeration. Superfoods. Are there foods that can burn more calories than others? Yes, and we are going to talk about that. But one specific type of food is not the key to fat loss or to boosting your metabolism to the point where you're a fat burning machine. It's about the amount of calories and the quality of foods that you eat. But again, not going to give anything away just yet. We're going to go more in depth on that. And then last but not least is ice baths and saunas. There's a lot of hype around this stuff. And yes, does it show some amount of fat reduction and burning calories? Yes, it does. But on the grand scheme of things, as far as significant amounts, it's next to nothing. A lot of this stuff is just overhyped and overblown. This will maybe make a difference of anywhere between 5 to 50 calories per day, all of this different stuff. And that's literally the difference of holding your spray, your olive oil spray, for one less millisecond. Okay. Or deciding, okay, I'm going to have uh, one serving of pasta instead of a serving and a half. Like there's stuff you can do that's going to be way better as far as saving time and effectiveness. And we're going to go over that stuff. This stuff is just not worth all the money that people tend to dump into them. Now, when it comes to fat burners, especially, the only real one that works is caffeine. The other one that used to work was, I believe it was called ephedrine, and that was actually outlawed back in, I believe, the early 2000s because a bunch of athletes, especially youth athletes, died from abusing it because it just jacked their heart rates up to the point where it had horrible effects. So, when it comes to the things that actually work, the only thing that's really left is caffeine, but that can actually potentially lead to eating more calories because when you do jack up your metabolism, one of the common side effects is hunger. So it is a slippery slope. You really got to control for the calories while boosting your metabolism. Otherwise, it's just going to end up being this constant, okay, I'm burning more calories, but I'm consuming more calories. And it both keep going up and up and up. And you're left stuck and being like, what the hell? So caffeine is good in moderate intakes. Just don't go overboard with it because we don't want to get crazy anxiety and all that other fun stuff that we know comes with it. Capsaicin is another popular one. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but we got the spelling here so you guys know what it is if you're watching in the Fit 40 family or on YouTube. But if you're listening on the podcast, it's CAPSAICIN. Okay, this stuff increases the amount of calories you burn by about a whopping total of 50 calories a day. Whoop-de frickin' do. 50 calories. That's next to nothing. That's half of a bag of Skinny Pop. All right. I don't know about you, but I want the big rocks. I want the stuff that actually makes a big difference. All right. Next is L-carnitine. This stuff was big back when I was doing my bodybuilding shows back in what, 2017, 2015. And they still have yet to have conclusive research that shows that it's actually beneficial. It still needs a lot of research behind it. We don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that it is supposed to help turn fat into energy. But your body does that anyway when you're in a calorie deficit. So it's kind of like dumping more water into a glass that's already full. And it could potentially be harmful if you take too much. That has been found. CLA. The European Journal of Nutrition found that evidence that CLA may promote weight loss and fat loss. But again, the effects were small and uncertain. That's a common theme with a lot of these fat burners. They rely on these ingredients that have very little research. Any type of effects that they see are very insignificant, but they fudge the numbers and use percentages and say, hey, it's 500% increase in body fat lost. Meanwhile, they leave out all this information about the fact that, oh, by the way, this was done on rats and this 500% increase was actually like only 1 calorie and things like that. So they really fudge the statistics to try and trick you into buying stuff that isn't proven. Okay. And when it comes to CLA, along with a lot of these other ones, okay, CLA can also cause GI issues and fatigue. So there are downsides to taking these supplements, and it does come with a little bit of risk. So is it worth spending, especially on like L-carnitine? The cost of that back when I was using it was absurd. Okay, it just doesn't justify the cost at all. But these supplement companies are going to fight tooth and nail to make you believe it. All right. So, in short, supplements don't do diddly squat in the grand scheme of things. The others, like the sauna, the exercise equipment, their true benefit lies in the promotion of a healthy lifestyle, which will boost your metabolism in effective ways. So, what is your metabolism? When we're talking about metabolism, we're using the nutrition definition. Now, if we're going scientific, it's literally just the process of your body converting energy to use to keep you alive. Now, when it comes to nutritionally, it's usually all about how many calories we burn throughout the day. And when it comes to the amount of calories we burn throughout the day, there's 4 ways we do that. There's one, your basal metabolic rate, your BMR. Two is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's your NEAT. And then there's TEF, which is the thermic effect of food. And there's EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. So let's go through them and talk about how you can maximize all of them. So, your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, is the amount of energy or calories your body needs to maintain basic functions when you're resting. It's how many calories you would need to survive if you never moved throughout the day. And according to the Mayo Clinic, your basal metabolic rate is responsible for about 70%, 70% of your calories burned for the day. It's a big chunk. That is the biggest chunk of calories you burn out of all of the 4. So there's several things that influence your basal metabolic rate. There's genetics. Okay, we can't deny it. Calories you burn per day is largely determined by genetics. If you want a prime example, look at me and my brother. My brother consumes twice, if not 3 times the amount of calories I do, and he's a freaking twig. Meanwhile, I can put on weight like nobody's business. Okay. Gender, men tend to have a higher BMR than women. Weight, as your weight increases, so does your BMR. Body size is basically the biggest thing when it comes to BMR. So heavier people burn more calories. Height, tall people tend to have a higher BMR than shorter people. Again, larger people burn more calories. And then body makeup. Your BMR will be higher if you have more muscle and less fat. So your body composition does play a very big role too. And last but not least, diet. Long term, let me pause here. Everybody listen up real close because this is the big one. This is the reason so many people struggle with losing weight and keeping it off. Okay. One of the biggest influences on your BMR is diet. Long term, low calorie intake can significantly reduce your BMR. So, extreme dieting can actually work against you. So, if you're doing these quick fix diets that have you starving all the time, that have you 1,200 calories or less, stop. It's only hurting you and it's going to result in negative consequences down the road. Now, age is also a big one that plays a role. However, it's not that significant between ages 20 to 60. As you can see here, if you're watching on YouTube or in the Fit 40 family, okay, there is pretty much no change between 20 and 60. And then after 60, there's a bit of a dip, but then around like 95, it comes right back up. And my personal hypothesis there is that those 95-year-olds had more lean body mass, which is one, why they lasted longer, and two, why their BMR or their energy expenditure is higher because they have more muscle. So just my thoughts. How to increase your BMR? That's the big question. So we know everything about BMR right now, like what it is, what it does. How the heck do we just jack that up to the max so that you can burn the most calories possible? Number one, build more muscle. Okay, that comes through strength training and recovering, not just beating yourself into the ground and getting zero results. You need to recover from the hard work that you put in and then staying consistent with it. So, even if your program is not optimal, even if it's not perfect, if you can stay consistent with it and do a little bit more as you go and really improve and feel better along the way, you will build muscle. And number two, don't diet forever. If you feel like you have to stay at this low calorie amount for your entire life because you're terrified of losing your results, then you need to learn things like how to reverse diet, how to maintain at higher calories. Those are skills that are 100% necessary if you want to keep your results and stay healthy and feel your absolute best. Something we do in the Fit 40 program. Shameless plug. Next is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Okay, so this is NEAT, if you've ever heard of that. It is the amount of calories burned when we aren't sleeping, eating, or intentionally exercising. It accounts for about 15 to 30% of the calories you burn daily. So this is the second highest amount out of all the four. We're going in order if you couldn't tell. So if you want to look more into that, I have the citation here about that 15 to 30% because I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to these numbers, I'm like, according to who? Okay. That's one of the best skills I learned from my girlfriend is when you hear a statistic, that should be your first question. According to who? And then see if it's actually quality evidence or not. Anyway, um, common sources of NEAT is one, walking to work, not intentionally walking and saying, okay, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk. That would fall under exercise, but this is the walking that you do to your car, to work, like when you're seeing coworkers or going to a meeting, things like that. Climbing the stairs, like when the elevator is out, or even if you intentionally want to climb the stairs, that would technically be NEAT. Um, Pacing back and forth. If you're ADD like me and you just continually pace back and forth, it is burning calories. And bonus points if you always forget your keys, your wallet, your phone, like myself, that extra walking, it adds up. So just so you know, fidgeting. So if you're tapping your foot, or just twitching every so often, like that burns calories. That's movement. And then carrying groceries. So if you're the type that's one trip, like you refuse to take multiple trips with the groceries, then that's cool. Do that. But multiple trips gets more steps in and reduces the chances of you dropping something. So don't feel like you have to do it all in one trip. But if you want to feel strong, go for it. Okay, so how to increase your non exercise activity thermogenesis, your NEAT. One is make your life less convenient. This is the big reason that a lot of people have trouble with dieting, with losing weight, is because life is so damn convenient. We drive everywhere, we get things we order things to our door. Like, if you're gonna get something, if you're gonna order food, go and get it. Just even going into your car, like walking to your car, walking inside, maybe standing there for 10 minutes is better than just sitting on your couch and hearing a ding and being like, all right, food's here. Okay. That stuff will add up. Or if you're able to like walk at certain points where you could say take the escalator or take that like thing at the airport. I forget what it's called, but the thing that basically pulls you along. I'm like, my God, we've gotten real lazy now. But if you can avoid the escalator and those electronic ways of transportation in the airport, then just walk instead. That stuff adds up. Next is increasing your energy. Okay. This is the big one. You're not going to want to do any of this stuff. You're not going to want to take the stairs. You're not going to want to do all this inconvenient stuff if you're tired all the time. And when you have a ton of energy, you do a lot of this stuff like the fidgeting, for example, without even thinking about it and subconsciously burn a crap ton of calories. Okay. So things that could help with that are better sleep. Now, if you're strapped for hours, like you have kids that are up at all hours of the night, pets and all that stuff, I mean, you can't really fix that, but we can work on the quality. So, reducing stress and making sure that the room's blacked out so you wake up less frequently, stuff like that can help a lot. But we'll get more into that. More high quality foods. The better quality food you eat, the better you feel. So the better you feel, the more energy you have, the more calories you will burn. Uh, Next is, like I said, managing stress to the best of your abilities. That's why I say manage, not eliminate. We all got it. We just got to make sure that we deal with it in a healthy way. Next is hydrating, because if we're dehydrated, we are more sluggish. We don't feel as sharp mentally. And that stuff, again, will not burn as many calories as if we are hydrated. Being more or less social. So, depending on if you're an intro or an extrovert, there's this concept called collecting tokens where it's like me, for example, I'm more of an introvert. Like, I can sit and play video games and watch Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter for an entire stretch, and I will feel so good. But eventually, you got to get out and meet people. And when you do that, when you're in this situation where you're being social and it's not your nature, it's like you're giving tokens away. So, on the flip side, if you're an extrovert and you love being outside, you love meeting people, love talking to everybody, you're collecting tokens that way. And then when you have to take some downtime, like when all your friends are not feeling like doing anything, or you just have nothing on the calendar and you got to sit at home and find stuff to do to keep yourself busy, that's when you're giving away tokens. So, when it comes to your personality type, collect as many tokens as you possibly can because that will reduce the amount of stress and allow you to have more energy. And then, last but not least, is not over exercising. This is one that happens a lot because people feel like, okay, if I want to lose weight, if I want to boost my metabolism, I just got to exercise all the time. And not just exercise, I got to run myself into the ground. Like my CrossFit class leaves me sweaty and tired and I barely move the rest of the day. This is what we're getting at. Okay. So if you are currently doing a form of exercise that reduces activity throughout the rest of the day, then remember, if we go back to, let me see if I could do this without losing our spot. If we go back to right here, okay, if you're exercising hardcore, that's the smallest piece of the pie. And then you're sacrificing the second biggest piece of the pie when it comes to the exercise or the movement throughout the day. Okay, that stuff, the NEAT is way more important than the exercise when it comes to, let me rephrase that. It's not more important, it's more you're burning more calories through NEAT than exercise. So, if you're doing too much exercise and it's impacting your NEAT, then that is going to have a negative effect and result in you burning less calories overall. The name of the game is burn as much as possible, not as much as possible in just one of the four aspects. Okay. So when it comes to sleep, on average, American adults sleep roughly 5.7 hours a night. The recommended amount is 7 to 9 hours per night. Now, the most common causes for poor sleep are usually technology, lack of consistency, like sticking to a bed and awake time 7 days a week, kids and pets, and just general stress. Okay, some of the tips that have worked really well for the Fit 40 clients, like I've put this stuff to the test. It's not, oh, this article says it or this certification taught me this, so this should work. Like I've actually seen this stuff work in practice. Number one is journaling or doing a brain dump, like right before bed. Just have a pen and paper right next to your bed. Put a timer on for 5 to 10 minutes and write down every single thing that's running through your mind. This is especially helpful for the moms because I pretty much work with moms 40 plus mostly. And you guys have a million things on your plate. You got a million lists to think about. You got bullshit going on at like your kids' school with your family. Like there is a million things that you can put down and just put it all down, unload. It doesn't even need to make sense. Write down total gibberish. I've done this before and I look back and I'm like, this looks like something out of A Beautiful Mind. This is a little scary. But if you can do that and get it all out, it's going to feel so good and it's going to help you relax and it'll help you unwind. And if you do wake up and you're like, oh my God, I forgot this thing, or you're still holding on to these lists in your head, just write them down and then go right back to sleep. That stuff will help minimize the time that you're waking up and staying up. Next is a sleep mask. If you don't have the ability to black out your room for whatever reason, like I'm not going to go down the million lists of reasons, but let's say you got a bunch of lights in the room, it will make a difference because we periodically wake up throughout the night, and that's just part of your sleep cycle. Now, if you wake up periodically and your eye catches light, it's going to wake you up a little bit. So if you have a sleep mask on, then it reduces that or eliminates that pretty much. And it makes it easier to fall back asleep during that part of the sleep cycle. Now, if you can black out your room with like you hate sleep masks, then black out your room with curtains, the blackout curtains. If there's little tiny lights, even the smallest of lights, like the one on your television or some little ones in your outlets and things like that. If you can just take a little bit of black tape to the point where it doesn't mess with the functionality, like it doesn't all of a sudden mean that you can't turn your TV on or something. If you can get rid of the light without messing with the functionality, black electric tape goes a very, very long way. And if you have if you have a clock or something, turn it away from you or put it face down. Or if you keep your phone near you, try and put that phone face down, turn off the vibrations and all that stuff if possible. I know some people have kids in college and things like that, and they don't want to not hear the phone ring or anything, God forbid. So if that's you, disregard that. But you guys get the gist of it. Do whatever you can with what's within your control. Getting to bed earlier doesn't mean you have to fall asleep earlier, but if you and your spouse like spending time together on the couch watching a show, then cool. But try and get to bed a little bit earlier. And if you have a TV in your room, watch the show in there. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive to what a lot of people will tell you because like when it comes to our bed, it really should just be for the two S's, sleep and sex. But when you have the ability when you're watching your show to just completely knock out and you're already in bed, then awesome. And whoever the person is that's up, like we usually know when our partner's asleep, when they're conked out. If you're that person that's up later, then you shut the TV off and you're good to go. You don't want the TV running all night, that's for sure. And some of them have timers. Like I know mine has a timer that you can set for 30, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, where basically it will shut the TV off for you. So definitely worth looking into that if you have it. Exercising. If you have no reason to be tired at the end of the day, you're not going to be tired. But as soon as you start exercising, if you haven't already, you'll be surprised at how much easier it is to fall asleep. That being said, if you're exercising late at night, it can potentially have the opposite effect. If it's like really close to bedtime, it can keep you up, but that's dependent person to person because sometimes some people can work out right before bed and it improves their sleep. So it really comes down to testing it out for you and making sure not to take stimulants too late in the day. That's another thing that I didn't put on here, but I probably should have is caffeine free afternoons. Caffeine has a half life of 6 to 8 hours. So you still have it in your system by the time you're in bed if you take it at say 1 o'clock, like you still have a good chunk of that caffeine coursing through your body. So try and keep the caffeine to the morning. And then last but not least is more daily sunlight. So if you can get some sort of sunlight on your skin, like during a morning walk or when you go out for lunch, like having your lunch out in the sun, if it's not uncomfortable and gross, then please, by all means, do it. You'll be surprised because it helps with your circadian rhythm a little bit and it'll help your body do its thing and stay in that rhythm. Stress. 46% of people report eating too much due to stress. Okay. Most common causes for that stress are work, family, social media slash news, poor nutrition, finances, and unrealistic expectations. So, when it comes to stress, one of the best things you could do is focus on what you can control. Control whatever you have the ability to and let go of the stuff that you cannot, because there is zero benefit to worrying about stuff that's outside of your control. And the more you focus your efforts on the things that are within your control, the more power you feel and the less stress you feel overall. Okay, so what some things that you can control are one, your response to the stressor. Anybody who is on the email list, I'm not sure if it went out yet actually, but there's going to be a really good one coming out about basically how your response is more impactful than the actual event itself. So if something horrible happens, it is it's not gonna change whether you like it or don't like it. The only thing that you can change is how you respond to it. So, if you can take a step back and remove yourself from the emotion, or if you can let the emotions run through you and then take a second to take a breath and be like, "Okay, what can I do about it?" That's gonna help a ton. Next is your exposure to stressors like social media and the news. If you doom scroll, if you constantly have the news on and it's just jacking you up, getting you upset, making you pissed off at people all day, then you're going to be stressed a lot more than you should be. Okay. Next is your headspace. Okay. So if you can meditate and just take 5 minutes out of your day, I know a lot of us feel like there is zero time in the day, but if you can just take 5 minutes in your car or in your home. Like I literally just lay down on the floor and will put on meditative music from Spotify for 5 minutes and just focus on breathing. That will literally change your entire day. And I know that it sounds woo woo. It sounds like how helpful can that actually be? I'm just telling you, give it a try. Do some controlled breathing during that meditation and just kind of think things out and let it run its course. There's a reason meditation has been around for thousands of years. It kind of helps. And then last but not least is setting your expectations accordingly. If you are on a weight loss journey and you're trying to lose 30 pounds in 30 days and you're getting pissed off every time 1 week you don't lose any weight, or you might even gain a little bit of weight, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You need to know what to expect. There will be weeks where you don't lose anything. There will be weeks where you may gain. It's all about the trajectory of where you're going. So, if you look at a graph and it's trending downwards and your goal is to lose weight, you are on track. Screw the daily fluctuations, screw the weekly fluctuations. When you look at your progress, it should be month to month, not day to day. And then, pro tip, like I mentioned before, journaling really helps. All right. Now, TEF, this is the third on the list of ways to boost your metabolism. TEF is the thermic effect of food, also known as specific dynamic action or diet-induced thermogenesis. And it's the amount of energy your body uses to digest, absorb, and metabolize food. This accounts for about 10% of the calories that we burn daily. Okay, different foods have different TEFs, we'll call them, because your body has to work harder to break down some foods than, sorry, let me back that up. Your body has to work harder to break down certain foods compared to others. Okay, so when it comes to the different types of foods, we're breaking them down into macronutrients, your protein, carbohydrates, and fats. When it comes to what has the lowest TEF, that is fat. That's 0 to 5% of your total TEF to break down fat. It really doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Carbohydrates are about 5 to 15% of TEF. Okay, so it's middle of the road. And when you consume more fibrous carbs, that's what gets you closer to that 15%. If it's like straight sugar, that would be like 5. Okay, and then when it comes to protein, that's about 20 to 30% of your TEF. So protein is king compared to the three of those. So, how do we increase thermic effect of food? One is having a high protein diet. Many, many benefits to having a high protein diet. Just do your best to make sure that that protein comes from lean sources. So, low fat, high protein types of sources. Number two, when eating carbs, try to eat fibrous sources. Like I said, if there's fiber in it, your body has to work harder to break it down, because fiber doesn't just pass through your body like sugar does. It sits in your gut and it takes a long time. And along the way, your body will ferment it and pull calories from it. So that whole net carb thing is kind of not total BS, but it doesn't mean 0 calorie, because you're still getting calories from that fiber. But in a nutshell, it takes a lot more effort on your body to break down that fiber and push it through. And then number three is increasing physical activity. It actually does have an effect on your thermic effect of food, because it increases your ability to mobilize food. So that is a big, big help. And that brings us to last but not least, which is your exercise. It is the smallest chunk of the pie, but it is still a chunk of the pie. Okay, exercise activity thermogenesis, or EAT, is the energy expended during structured physical activities such as cardio or strength training that are intended to improve health. It accounts for about 5 to 15% of calories burned daily. So, what kind of exercise should you be doing? The main event should be resistance training. Okay, that should be with a focus on progressive overload. Cardio should be more like a side dish. A lot of people double down on cardio because they've heard for years and years and years this is how you burn fat. Turns out that's bullshit. When it comes to burning fat, when you're in a calorie deficit, you burn higher amounts of fat when you resistance train and build muscle, because when you burn a pound of body weight, that's a percentage of body fat and lean body mass. Now, lean body mass, muscle is involved in that. So if you're resistance training and you're not losing any muscle, you might be maintaining or gaining muscle. You can assume that like 99% of the weight that you're losing is fat. Now, cardio doesn't really place a giant toll on our bodies to build muscle. You don't need that much muscle to be good at cardio. That's why you see a lot of marathon runners and things like that aren't exactly jacked. But that being said, cardio can play a big role in increasing energy and a bunch of other benefits. So when it comes to like non-exercise activity thermogenesis and you feel more energy from doing cardio in your routine, then that will carry over. So it has a place. Just make sure that resistance training is the main thing and cardio is the side thing. Okay, but both are involved, both are included. Now, when I said progressive overload, if you haven't been listening to the podcast for a while, I know I've beaten it to death, but for the newbies, I got you. Okay, so when it comes to progressive overload, all that means is that we're increasing the demand on your body over time with increased weight, repetitions, sets, or time, just giving your body more to adapt to. So basically, do more, and your body will be forced to build more muscle and bone, assuming that you're recovering adequately. So, how big of a difference does all this make? I know that we kind of went through everything, and I pointed out in the beginning that the supplements make like diddly squat difference. Like the one would burn maybe 50 calories in that one fat burning ingredient. So, how does this stack up in comparison? Well, let's give an example. So, here's the example: a 40-year-old female, 180 pounds, who is about 5'5". Their basal metabolic rate would be around 1,500 calories. So let's say that they're sedentary, they don't do any exercise whatsoever. Okay, their total daily energy expenditure is going to be about 1,800 calories a day. Now, total daily energy expenditure is what I just showed you, your metabolism. That's the collection of everything. So your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity, thermic effect of food, and your exercise activity. So since you're not doing any exercise, you have a TDEE of about 1,800 calories. So if you're trying to lose about a pound per week, that would put you in a deficit of 1,300 calories, which is under your BMR. And when we do that, that's usually no bueno. That is where the side effects happen, like increased hunger, increased cravings, possible hair loss, like all the negative side effects that a lot of people on the GLP-1s are experiencing right now when they don't have nutritional guidance. Now, person number two is moderately active. They get a couple of workouts in a week, some walking in, and now instead of only burning 1,800 calories a day, they burn 2,300 calories a day. So now, if they want to lose about a pound per week, then they could eat 1,700 calories a day and lose that. And that's well above their basal metabolic rate. So they're in a healthier position. And not only that, they are um, burning 500 calories more per day. And that is literally 500 calories a day is literally a deficit that for 1 pound a week. 3,500 calories for a week is 1 pound per week. 7 days, that's 500 calories. So exercise can literally be the difference between losing weight and not losing weight. And this is the smallest piece of the pie. Exercise was the smallest piece of the pie when it comes to the percentage of calories you burn per day. So if you were to increase the other aspects of the equation, then you're going to get even more bang for your buck. So beats the hell out of spending $70 for an ingredient that may burn 50 calories. Okay, so let's ditch the supplements and quick fixes. Instead, let's focus on exercising and making life a little bit less convenient, buying better and consuming better quality foods, improving your sleep and stress management, and hydrating and managing your social situations better. All right, now that's that for today. If you guys want some help with all of this, that's literally what the Fit 40 family is for, especially with the workouts. Right now, we're in the middle of the July workout challenge. So if you're like, okay, this is awesome, I want to start exercising, I just haven't yet, get your butt in there and get the free workouts, get all the free resources. And on top of that, you're going to have a bunch of people cheering you on along the way, people just like you. So highly recommend checking out the Fit 40 family. If you need the link, it's going to be in the show notes or the description if you're on YouTube. And if you want a little bit more individualized help, then that's what the free strategy call is for. I block out times every single week to help people completely for free. Okay. So no catch, no gimmick. I won't sell you on anything. I literally just want to help you. So you will get an individualized roadmap for success that you can follow and see incredible results. And if you need any additional free resources, I'll give them to you there on the spot. I just want to help you out. Okay. So I want to make sure that all this information is actually making a difference and it's not just falling on deaf ears. All right. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a little something out of this. If you want to tell me like your biggest thing that you heard, I'd love it if you could just take a screenshot, put it out there on Instagram or Facebook and just say, hey, I learned this thing. And it would mean the world to me. I love knowing that this stuff actually helps. But I'll cut myself off before I rant too much. Thank you guys for tuning in all the way through. I will see you all next time. Same place. Yeah. So go kick some ass. I'll see you later.